ASQ, American Society of Quality, is the administrator for the U.S. tag to ISO TC 176. Articles in Quality Progress and other ASQ publications are pretty reliable. So you can also send questions to Denise through Quality Digest as well, using our comments link up at the top of our webpage. And she'll be happy to answer or pass the question on to others who can respond more completely about the upcoming standard. Number 2, consider the source of information on the revision. Consider the source. Get your information from creditable sources, people who are either directly, like Denise, or indirectly involved with the standards development process. These people are often a good resource. People like Denise, in fact, they know what is fact and what is conjecture. 3, be wary of organizations offering training on how to change your system to address the impending changes. Remember, the changes have not been determined yet. So if somebody's saying they're going to set you up for 2015, you might want to take that with a grain of salt. Number 4, ensure that your organization's top managers are aware that changes are coming so that they can plan the allocation of the resources and what will be needed to make necessary provisions in their budget. And this is really important. I mean, obviously changes are going to occur.
Yes.
Things are going to happen. So even though you don't necessarily know what they are, you do got to be setting aside some amount of budget to address it and so forth, and time, obviously, for everybody to come up to speed. So you definitely want to be prepared for it. Number 5, this one's really good. Consider joining the U.S. tag to ISO TC 176 so that you can participate in the process. This is really a good idea. I mean, being a tag member gives you the opportunity to get first-hand information about the revision process. You get to review the drafts of all active projects in the TC 176 portfolio, which is more than just ISO 9001, and you get a chance to have your voice heard through the commenting process and the breakouts. You also have the privilege of working and networking with the people who are passionate about standards and quality. If you are interested in joining TC 176, send an email to standards@asq.org. That's standards@asq.org, and for more information on how to join. And number 6, don't start revising your documentation at this stage in the game when things are still undecided. The risk of wasting resources by making needless changes is pretty darn high. And finally, number 7, don't let anyone convince you that they know what will happen. They don't.
They don't. No.
Exactly.
No. And that's just the way it works. I mean, ISO 9001 is probably the biggest of all these standards that goes through these processes. There's a lot of weigh-in. There's a lot of debate. There's a lot that goes on in the technical committees to at the end of the game, have a standard that works for the broadest possible amount of people.
Right.
It's interesting at this stage to look at what we hear is going on, the rumblings of this, but wait, be patient. Don't jump to the gun and don't assume that things are going to change just because you hear certain things about what the language may be.
Right.
Wait a little while and we'll see. We'll get more information as we go. But we're going to be following this. Denise is going to be writing for us and giving us more information in the coming weeks and months, and we'll be sure to check in with her regularly.
That's right.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Dirk. All right. Another interesting article this week came to us from Jim Verzino, titled "How Education is Ruining Your Compliance Initiatives." This piece takes a compelling look at whether the U.S. educational system is destroying our ability to do two things: to collaborate and create. Collaborate and create. And those are the two things that are most needed in today's interconnected and fast-paced world. Now, public school education in the United States is designed for the lowest common denominator.
According to Verzino?
But I think there's some validity to that.
There is, yeah.
I mean, you're in a public school system, and certainly
you've got to meet the needs of
everybody, as many people as you can.
Yeah.
So those that are maybe a little more gifted, and maybe sometimes being gifted lends you to be a little bit maybe out of control sometimes, especially when you're a little bit younger. That's not supported many times by the system. Teachers and administrators, what do they want to do? We know this from being in school, many of us. They want kids to sit quietly, right? Work independently, keep your eyes on your own paper, work independently, follow directions, listen to me, and memorize stuff. Memorize stuff. You know, like I got drilled into me the order of the planets from Mercury out to Pluto, right? Or is it Neptune now? I don't know. But regardless, exactly. I mean, all the presidents. You know, you memorize this stuff. How does it help you, right? I mean, but business today, especially among knowledge workers in the technology-driven or technology-supported fields, They must be able to do the very opposite of that. The very opposite of that. They need to be able to accept and channel noisy concepts and noisy coworkers sometimes.
Yeah.
They need to be able to collaborate. They need to be able to break the rules when necessary, and they need to be able to think on their feet. But none of that is the way that the educational system is teaching them. And why do they teach kids that way? Why do they teach kids that way if we know...
We've always done it that way.
Well, we've always done it that way. That's the habit, and that's the convenience for teachers. I think this is a big part of it. Maybe some teachers in the public school system, I think this is probably true, aren't confident enough to handle the messy work of developing creative minds. As I say, I mean, if any of us have known, either we have kids or we have nephews or nieces or whatever, or we just know kids, especially the really creative kids that you can tell are going to be successful, are crazy often when they're young. You know, all kids are crazy when they're young, but I mean, the really hyper creative kids tend to be a handful to deal with, right? They're the ones that tend to get disciplined a lot, go to the principal's office, quiet down, keep your eye on your paper, sit down, do this, do that. We're throttling the creativity for these kids. And as a consequence, what's happening is we're not getting the graduates and the adults that we need to make the U.S. industry better, more creative, and more successful within the world environment. I think that's what Berzino's saying here. And it starts with a better educational system. I mean, quite frankly, it starts with better teachers, I think. It starts with teachers being more confident in being able to handle those creative kids. Well, and the system needs to be better, too.
I would interject a little bit. I'm not sure... Knowing a lot of teachers, I'm sure you do too.
Sure.
I think they would argue is that they're also, more than anything, they're constrained by the system.
The system, sure.
So
sure.
I mean,
it's a Red experiment.
You could have great teachers, but if you're constrained by the system itself, it doesn't matter how good a teacher